What it do, everybody? It's your boy King Crowder, back again with another edition of History You May Not Know and Things That Are Not Taught in Detail for Show. Today's lesson, we will be focusing on the great state of South Carolina and South Carolina's legal and good and bad stories. Did you know that South Carolina has only had one black Supreme Court justice since the year 1870? Did you know that their lack of diversity problems inside the legal process has haunted them post-emancipation? Today's story will be focused on the great Jonathan Jasper Wright. He was the first black and only Supreme Court justice nominated in South Carolina in 1870. He was nominated from being an attorney inside Pennsylvania, where he was broke family of freed slaves, formerly from South Carolina. Mr. Wright rose to prosperity after Reconstruction in the South, when black Americans gained legal right and political power. If you did not know, the northern powers in this country won the war primarily because black Americans helped them win in the army. Before black Americans entered the war, the North was losing. The South was winning the battle. But when blacks got in and fought hard, that is when they earned their equality. Mr. Wright literally worked as an attorney in Pennsylvania. His family, like I said, were enslaved from his travel to the South. And in 1865, he decided to go work at the Freedmen's Bureau, which was a bank for black Americans at the time to have their wages. And when he worked inside of there, he gained notoriety. He was voted in and was leaded to the community in this area. Mr. White was delegated to work the state of South Carolina, where he worked, earned his campaign, and won against lieutenant governors. Mr. Wright filled the vacancy, was the first black in the state of South Carolina's history to run a conservative campaign. As you did not know around this time, y'all, most of the South was run by Democrats. Democrats is where the Klan came from, other harmful organizations. Mr. Wright was making progress for black Americans. He was legalizing the law, enforcing it, allowing political commentary and openness to be ran inside of black communities. What had happened, you must understand that this upset many poor whites in that area. They said, how can a N-word be leading our company and country without a white man's approval? Mr. Wright was a fair-minded judge. Sometimes he went against the black community. Other times he went for the white ones who served the law. He observed the law upstanding and as best he could. The only way to dismantle this man was to make up some allegations. What they did against Mr. Wright was they upturned some charges that he accepted bribery. They said that he was paid to lead some cases and go against others, which made him a one-time and unvoted Supreme Court justice. Mr. Wright had no approval, and there was no legislation proof to support these allegations. But we must understand, throughout our history, many white folks make allegations and they're proven true without any substantial evidence. The tide turned quick. In May of 1877, the Democratic-controlled legislature got Mr. Wright out of his court seat. They also said he accepted bribery and drunkenness. Mr. Wright was impeached and he had to leave. The accusation championed him all the way for the rest of his life. Whenever he wanted to work law, the names and things were said about him. This upstanding, phenomenal court justice had a title on him and his reputation. Him being an alcoholic and him not serving the law well. They said it's unfair practices. So the one black American judge that served the great state of South Carolina, history was ruined based off allegations. No approval was said. No proof of period has ever been written. His removal is a failure on the court system, and they used voter intimidation and election fraud. Voter suppression was heavy around this time, and Mr. Wright was just a catastrophe of it. You must understand, think about this for a second. Since Mr. Wright left his Superior Court justice law, South Carolina has not had one. That is almost 150 years. since someone has had that capital judge seat post-Reconstruction. They can say throughout history as we tell the entire story that we have made progress. But when you look at history in the whole total and context, you will see very few markings have been wrong. Think about the great state of South Carolina. That is where primarily most of our phenomenal hits and most Black Americans are. However, they still have not gotten the proper legal and press legal compensation. The tragedy on how the great Jonathan Jasper Wright had to leave because he wanted to serve his community. The accusations were not true. They were never supported, but the ideology to propagate, demonize, and talk bad about Black Americans who wanted to go against themselves post-Reconstruction. Jonathan Jasper Wright, y'all, an icon, a civil rights activist, and a leader in his community, unjustly justified and impeached as the first Black Supreme Court Justice in South Carolina. It's your boy, King Crowder. Check him back out, teaching you things that history that you never knew and things that were never taught. I just want to get in here to provide context for the entire story of American history. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It is nothing wrong with taking a strong case and icon look at it, y'all. But I want you to be informed. Not only self-educate yourself, know the science. It's your boy, check it out. Peace.